In the world of sports, triumph can turn to tragedy in an instant. These 5 athletes, racing legends, fearless competitors, and champions, faced the ultimate horror, losing their lives in front of cheering crowds. Their final moments stunned everyone watching, leaving terrifying memories that fans and fellow athletes could never forget. On the morning of May 22, 2021, Huang Guanjun, a 34-year-old Chinese marathoner and Paralympic champion, prepared to run the 100-kilometer ultramarathon through the Yellow River Stone Forest in Gansu Province, China. Deaf and mute since infancy, Huang had spent years building his life around running, training daily, and earning accolades in national events, despite limited employment opportunities. He arrived among 171 other athletes, many of them elite long-distance runners carrying hope, determination, and the quiet focus of someone accustomed to pushing through hardship. The sky was overcast, the air crisp, and the course promising, yet none of the competitors could anticipate the extraordinary danger that lay ahead. The race began at 9 a.m. Many participants left their jackets behind, relying on light gear suitable for moderate weather. Among the front-runners was Liang Jing, a 31-year-old ultramarathon veteran nicknamed Liang God, who won the 400-kilometer Ultra Gobi in 2018. By late morning, the lead pack was navigating exposed mountain slopes when the weather changed abruptly. Gale-force winds of 32 to 46 miles per hour, freezing rain, and hail struck with little warning, while the temperature dropped from around 34 degrees Fahrenheit to near 23 degrees Fahrenheit. Visibility fell, footing became treacherous, and runners were forced to crawl or stumble on hands and knees over jagged rocks and sand. Huang continued forward despite the worsening conditions, unable to hear shouts from fellow athletes or call for help himself. Around midday, he was spotted by Zhang Xiaotao, another runner, who later described Huang pointing to his ears to indicate he could not hear the storm's warnings. Many in the lead pack, including Huang, were caught in the exposed section between the 12th and 19th miles, where the terrain required a 1,000-meter climb over 8 kilometers. The path was inaccessible to vehicles and lacked adequate supplies. Hypothermia set in rapidly. Runners collapsed, shivering violently, with some losing consciousness or foaming at the mouth. Reports later indicated that the first distress messages were sent around 11:50 a.m. via GPS, but responders were either delayed or unaware of the severity, leaving athletes stranded in a mobile phone blind spot. By early afternoon, rescue efforts were underway, but chaos and confusion slowed response. The race was called off around 2 p.m., yet many organizers, stationed far from the worst-hit sections, were unaware of the scale of the disaster. Some local villagers, including a shepherd named Zhu Keming, took initiative, guiding survivors to safety and saving 6 runners by bringing them into a heated cave. Despite these efforts, Huang and 20 other athletes were overcome by the elements. His body was found around 2 a.m., frozen and lifeless, a silent testament to both his determination and the unforgiving power of nature. The aftermath left families, fans, and the athletic community in shock. Huang's death was widely mourned, along with the loss of other elite athletes such as Liang Jing, who had won multiple ultramarathons. Questions about race management, safety protocols, and the adequacy of emergency planning dominated public discussion. Officials from Baiyin City and Jingtai County expressed deep guilt and self-blame, and investigations were launched into the actions of the local sports marketing company and administrative authorities responsible for the race. State media documented rescuers navigating treacherous terrain with flashlights and thermal imaging drones, but noted that delays rendered efforts largely futile for the lead runners. Huang's story, like those of his fallen peers, highlighted both the dedication of professional athletes and the extreme risks inherent in ultramarathon racing. He had risen from modest beginnings, losing his hearing and speech due to a medical error in his early childhood, to achieve national recognition as a champion runner. Running had become his calling and his identity, a discipline that brought purpose and pride. Yet on that day in Gansu, even his resilience and experience could not withstand the combination of extreme weather, insufficient safety measures, and the harsh mountain environment. The tragedy prompted a halt to dozens of upcoming races and a renewed focus on protecting athletes who push their limits in pursuit of excellence. Hank Gathers was a towering presence on the basketball court, a 6'7" forward whose energy and skill electrified fans and teammates alike. Born and raised in Philadelphia's Raymond Rosen projects, he had grown into a player of extraordinary talent and relentless drive, leading the nation in both scoring and rebounding during his junior year at Loyola Marymount University. By his senior season, Gathers had become a consensus second-team All-American and a 3-time first-team All-West Coast Conference selection, embodying the spirit of a team that played at a breakneck pace under Coach Paul Westhead. On March 4, 1990, Hundreds of fans gathered at Gersten Pavilion for the WCC semifinal against the Portland Pilots, unaware that they were about to witness one of the most shocking moments in sports history. Earlier in the season, Gathers had been diagnosed with exercise-induced ventricular tachycardia, a dangerous abnormal heartbeat after collapsing during a December 9th home game against UC Santa Barbara. Prescribed the beta blocker Inderal, he initially struggled to perform at full strength and eventually reduced his dosage, reportedly skipping the medication on game days. Despite the health risks, he returned to the court, scoring record-breaking points and rebounds, including a nationally televised 48-point, 13-rebound performance against LSU in February 1990. His competitive spirit and determination made him a leader on and off the floor, and his teammates, including Bo Kimble and Terrell Lowry, relied on his presence during every play. During the semifinal game, Gathers had just received an alley-oop pass from Lowry and delivered a thunderous dunk, sending the crowd into a frenzy. Only 13 seconds later, while moving to set up Loyola Marymount's full-court press near midcourt, he suddenly collapsed just feet from Portland point guard Eric Spoelstra. Struggling to rise, he reportedly told the athletic trainers, "I don't want to lay down," before losing consciousness entirely. The impact of his 220-pound frame hitting the court reverberated through the arena, instantly silencing the crowd and freezing players and fans in shock. Medical personnel rushed to his side, joined moments later by his mother Lucille and other family members who had traveled from Philadelphia. But Gathers stopped breathing. Attempts to revive him on the court were unsuccessful, and he was carried out on a stretcher to Daniel Freeman Marina Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 6:55 p.m. The immediate aftermath stunned the basketball world. The WCC suspended the game indefinitely, and the tournament was later canceled, with Loyola Marymount awarded the conference's automatic NCAA tournament bid. ESPN aired footage of the collapse on SportsCenter, amplifying the horror for viewers nationwide. An autopsy revealed that Gathers had suffered from hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a heart muscle disorder that explained both his earlier collapse and the tragic final moment of his life. His death prompted a $32.5 million negligence lawsuit filed by his family, which was later settled by Loyola Marymount and his cardiologist. Beyond legal matters, the emotional impact on his teammates, fans, and the wider sports community was profound, particularly for Bo Kimble, who witnessed Gathers' death firsthand. The experience haunted Kimble for years, ultimately motivating him to become a certified CPR instructor and advocate for placing defibrillators in public spaces through the 44 for Life Foundation, named in honor of Gathers' jersey number. Gathers' legacy endures in multiple ways. His number 44 was retired by Loyola Marymount, and a statue now stands outside Gersten Pavilion, capturing his signature athleticism and determination. The 1989-90 Lions, inspired by their fallen teammate, advanced to the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament, with Kimble honoring Gathers by shooting left-handed free throws in his memory. More than 3 decades later, Gathers remains an emblem of talent, resilience, and the fragility of life, even for those who seem unstoppable. His death not only transformed sports medicine with increased awareness of cardiac risks and mandatory defibrillators, but also left a mark on everyone who witnessed or followed his extraordinary, tragic journey. Fran Crippen was one of America's brightest young swimming stars, a 26-year-old athlete whose stamina, courage, and competitive spirit had earned him recognition in both pool and open water events. Born in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, Fran grew up in a family deeply steeped in swimming excellence, with sisters who competed at the Olympic and national levels. A graduate of the University of Virginia, Fran had already amassed 7 international medals, including Pan American Games gold and World Championship bronze, and had established himself as a fixture of Team USA's long-distance swimming team. A resilient and determined young man, he had faced grueling races before, yet few could have anticipated the tragedy that would unfold in Fujairah, United Arab Emirates on October 23, 2010. The day of the FINA 10K World Cup race in Fujairah presented brutal conditions. The water temperature had risen above 30 degrees Celsius, and the combined heat of water and air made it one of the most physically demanding races of the season. Fran, like many competitors, immediately felt the strain, yet pressed on with the same determination that had carried him to international medals. Around the 8-kilometer mark, he reportedly told teammates that he was thirsty, but refused to withdraw, determined to finish. Observers on shore and fellow athletes soon noticed his pace faltering, his stroke slowing, and his position in the pack dropping. Fran's struggle became increasingly visible, but the race continued, and the finish line came and went without him appearing. Panic quickly spread among competitors and officials. Fellow American Alex Meyer and other swimmers immediately returned to the water to search, aware that Fran's absence was unusual and alarming. Their search, aided by dive teams, extended for nearly 90 minutes. Fran's body was eventually found submerged near the final buoy, roughly 500 yards from shore. and he was transported to Fujairah Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The shock rippled through spectators, athletes, and the international swimming community alike. The race, intended as a display of elite endurance, had transformed into a scene of incomprehensible loss. Fran's death prompted immediate scrutiny of the conditions and safety protocols in place during the race. Several athletes reported heat-related symptoms, including dizziness and disorientation, and two Americans and one Brazilian, required hospitalization. Competitors noted the unusually high water temperatures, some describing swelling of fingers and toes and temporary confusion, indicative of the extreme stress placed on the body. FINA, swimming's international governing body, and USA Swimming launched investigations to determine the factors contributing to Fran's death. Reports suggested that the combination of intense exertion and extreme heat, possibly compounded by a cardiac abnormality or exercise-induced asthma, had led to his collapse. The race was the first in FINA history to claim a life, a stark reminder of the hazards inherent even for elite athletes. Fran's family, friends, and teammates were left grappling with grief and frustration. His sisters, themselves accomplished swimmers, mourned the loss of a brother whose life and career had inspired many. Fellow athletes, including those who had raced alongside him, recounted the terror and helplessness of watching Fran disappear beneath the water and the desperate attempts to reach him in time. Coaches and officials acknowledged that safety measures were inadequate and pledged to implement stricter guidelines. Subsequent rule changes in open water competitions included temperature limits for races and mandatory on-water safety personnel to ensure rapid response to swimmers in distress. The loss of Fran Crippen resonated far beyond Fujairah. From his hometown of Conshohocken to the University of Virginia and training centers across the country, the swimming community reflected on the vulnerability of even the most prepared athletes. His death became a catalyst for improved safety in open water events, a painful but necessary reminder of the risks faced by those who push the limits of human endurance. Fran's legacy endures not only in his accomplishments but in the reforms spurred by his passing. Frank Hayes' story is one of the most astonishing and tragic moments in the history of horse racing, a chilling testament to human ambition and the limits of physical endurance. On June 4, 1923, at Belmont Park in Elmont, New York, Hayes, a 22-year-old Irishman and stable-hand-turned stand-in jockey, prepared for what would be the defining moment of his short life aboard Sweet Kiss, a 20-to-1 underdog mare. Though he had never won a race before and was normally a horse trainer and stable worker, Hayes seized the rare opportunity to ride, driven by his lifelong fascination with horses and the chance to step out from behind the scenes and into the spotlight. Those who watched him mount that morning could not have imagined the extraordinary feat and the devastating tragedy that was about to unfold. In the days leading up to the race, Hayes subjected his body to extreme and dangerous measures to meet the strict weight requirements for jockeys. Reports indicate he lost 12 to 13 pounds in a matter of days, with the last 10 pounds shed in just 24 hours. He pushed himself through intense exercise, including jogging and rigorous weight control routines, and limited food and water intake severely. By the time he mounted Sweet Kiss, Hayes' body was already under tremendous strain, a fragile instrument of determination and obsession. The 2-mile steeplechase began, and Hayes guided Sweet Kiss through the field, quickly establishing a surprising lead over more favored competitors. Spectators erupted in cheers as the underdog mare surged forward, unaware that the jockey riding her was in the grip of a fatal crisis. As the final stretch approached, Hayes suffered a massive heart attack. Despite the sudden and catastrophic failure of his heart, his body remained upright, hands gripping the reins, guiding Sweet Kiss across the finish line. The mare won by a head, securing an improbable victory for the young jockey and astonishing the crowd. Only moments later, when the horse's owner and race officials approached, did the horrifying truth become clear. Frank Hayes had died in the saddle mid-race. Track physician Dr. John A. Voorhees quickly confirmed the fatal heart attack, attributing it to the combination of extreme weight loss, physical exertion, and the stress of competing in his first and only race. All post-race formalities were waived, and Hayes' victory was officially recorded, making him the only jockey in history to win a race posthumously. He was buried 3 days later at Holy Cross Cemetery in Brooklyn, dressed in the vibrant racing silks of his first and final victory, attended by friends and colleagues who had known him as a dedicated and passionate horseman. Sweet Kiss never raced again, earning the nickname Sweet Kiss of Death for the remainder of her life, and newspapers memorialized the shocking events, emphasizing both Hayes' remarkable courage and the dangers inherent in extreme physical exertion. Nearly a century later, Hayes' story endures as a haunting reminder of the intersection between ambition, athleticism, and tragedy. His legacy survives not only as a singular record-setting victory, but as a solemn reflection on the human cost of pushing the body to its absolute limits in pursuit of dreams, leaving spectators and historians alike in awe of both his determination and the cruel twist of fate that made him a champion after death. Daijiro Kato was one of Japan's most celebrated motorcycle racers, a prodigious talent whose rise through the Grand Prix ranks captured the attention of fans worldwide. Born in Saitama Prefecture in 1976, Kato began racing miniature bikes at a young age, winning the Japanese pocket bike championship 4 times. By 1992, he had moved into road racing, and his first Grand Prix appearance came in 1996 at his home circuit Suzuka, where he finished an impressive 3rd in the 250cc class. Known for his precision, speed, and relentless work ethic, Kato quickly established himself as a dominant force, claiming the 250cc World Championship in 2001 with a record 11 victories and a points total of 322. Fans admired not only his skill on the track but also his dedication and passion for the sport, making him one of the most promising figures in MotoGP. On April 6, 2003, during the opening round of the Japanese MotoGP season at Suzuka Circuit, Kato took to the track aboard his Honda RC 211V. Racing at speeds of approximately 125 miles per hour, he approached the Casio Triangle chicane when his motorcycle entered a near high-side oscillation. The bike's rear swung uncontrollably, sending him skidding off the track and into the tire and foam barriers. A dangerous gap between the barriers caused Kato's head to strike the foam edge with devastating force. The impact dislocated the joint between the base of his skull and the cervical spine, causing catastrophic injuries to his head, neck, and chest. Spectators watched in horror as Kato was thrown back onto the track, motionless beside the racing line. Corner workers quickly moved him onto a stretcher, though his head drooped during the transfer, potentially worsening the neck injury. Remarkably, the race continued without interruption, leaving fans and riders witnessing the immediate aftermath in real time. Kato was rushed to a nearby hospital, where he remained in a coma for 2 weeks. Despite intensive care and signs of slight improvement, including stronger pulse and blood pressure, the severity of his spinal and cranial injuries made recovery impossible. On April 20, 2003, at the age of 26, Kato succumbed to brainstem infarction caused by the trauma sustained during the crash. The news sent shockwaves through the MotoGP community. Riders, teams, and fans mourned the loss of a gifted competitor whose skill and potential promised years of racing excellence. His death was the first fatality at a Grand Prix event at Suzuka since Nobuyuki Wakai in 1993, and it prompted questions regarding circuit safety, the handling of on-track accidents, and the decision not to halt the race immediately. In the aftermath, tributes poured in from across the racing world. The Fédération Internationale de Motocyclisme, FIM, permanently retired Kato's racing number 74, in recognition of his achievements and to honor his memory. Teammates, including Sete Gubernau, incorporated the number into their suits and bikes as a mark of respect, and subsequent races featured black armbands and small 74 decals to commemorate him. Honda and fellow riders organized memorial events, including tributes at the Suzuka 8 Hours race and the creation of a shrine in Tokyo, where fans and colleagues paid homage to his legacy. Roads and circuits in Japan have since been named in his honor, ensuring that Kato's contributions to motorcycle racing and his status as a national sporting hero are permanently remembered. Daijiro Kato's life and untimely death remain a solemn reminder of the risks inherent in motorsport, even for the most skilled and prepared athletes. His talent, determination, and the tragedy witnessed by thousands of fans ensure that he is remembered not only as a champion on the track, but as a symbol of both the thrill and peril of racing at the highest level.